microphone is now enabled. Yeah, sorry about that. I had it all tested and it all working fine. But I've been trying to get some new software working this afternoon and didn't manage to get that new software working. So I've switched back to this one. And obviously the chat isn't working as usual. Hello and welcome. Just bear with us a minute while I get the chat working. Again, trying to get this new software working has meant that some of this previous stuff has stopped working. So let's just re-enable this. Hopefully this is going to start working. This is the live Q&A. There you go. So there's a few people in the chat. We are here. Yes, I'm alive. Ian is here. Christine is here. Jason is here. A few other people are here. We're transmitting on Facebook as well. So I'm just going to try and get the Facebook comments working. If anybody is watching this live on Facebook. Now this did work earlier on. So hopefully it will work now as well. There we go, it's working. So the box on the right hand side is for Facebook chat. So if you're watching this on Facebook, you can see the comments there. So yeah, hello and welcome to the monthly live Q&A, although this is actually the second one that I've done this month, because last month's was late. So I actually did January's at the start of February. So it's only been 3 weeks since the last one. But yeah, we're here. We're going to be here for about an hour and a half. It's normally about that length of time. I normally get really flustered and basically try and do everything at the speed of a train and get really exhausted. By the end of these live Q&As, my blood pressure is so high, I need to have a lie down. And it takes me usually 3 or 4 hours for my whole body to calm down afterwards. So I'm going to try and take this one a little bit easier. But with all the comments flooding in, I get all excited. That's why I normally go. So Jason is here in the Facebook chat and Ashley's here as well. So the Facebook chat is working and the YouTube chat is working. So yes, thank you very much to everybody for joining in. I have had more questions in advance than I normally have had before. Now, there's 2 reasons why I post for questions in advance. And the first one is obviously to help advertise the fact that I'm doing a live Q&A. If you post about it on Facebook and you say, ask me your questions on the thread, that keeps the thread alive, because otherwise the thread disappears and within a few minutes, nobody will ever see it. So that's the reason I do that. The other reason is that I want people who can't join in live to have the opportunity to ask me questions. So I have had a lot of questions in. Alan is saying, try running a Kickstarter, it's more stressful. I did. Well, I didn't run it myself. I mean, I'm not in the position that you're in, but I remember when CGE launched their Dungeon Lords Kickstarter. This is going back 5-6 years ago now. I was the person actually doing all of the notes and replying to all of the comments. And that was incredibly stressful. And I was at Manacon at the same time. Is it sunny and hedgehogs? Are hedgehogs hibernating? Well, today the weather has been like April. It's been a bit of rain, then bright sunshine, then a bit more rain, then a bit more bright sunshine. And it's been like that pretty much all day. It is not raining at the moment, but I wouldn't say it is sunny. Vicky is on her way home. She will be home in probably about 45 minutes. I've told her to pop in and say hello. She probably won't because she's a bit shy. And then she'll be doing dinner. So once dinner is ready, that's when I'll need to go, because otherwise it'll be downstairs going cold. Right, let us go first to... Oh, yeah. So what I'm going to do is say hello to each other and chat in the chat window, but don't put any questions in there just yet, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to all the questions I've been asked in advance first, and I'm going to go through them. Okay? However, Ian has popped in very quickly and just asked me, oh yeah, take a deep breath, Jennifer. Yeah, I need to do that. Ian has asked me about Formula 1 testing. So I'm a Formula 1 fan. I've followed Formula 1 since, well, it'll be 21 years now. Yeah, it was halfway through the 98 season when I started. So yeah, 21, 22 years. So I'm a Formula 1 fan. I've been following it for a long time. And winter testing is happening at the moment. And the results of winter testing are sometimes useless and are sometimes really good. So last year's winter testing is that Ferrari were phenomenal and Mercedes weren't very good, and then the season kicked off and suddenly, yeah, it was all different. Whereas the testing this time is showing that Mercedes are the ones to beat as well, and actually Ferrari are not very good. But we will see come March. We will see come March. Right, anyway, so I am going to go to the questions that I've been asked in advance. So quick shout out for my BGG guild, which every month I try and promote and I try and mention and I try and get more people on it. So on Board Game Geek there is a feature called guilds, I have a gaming rules guild on there. If you are not subscribed to it, please subscribe to it. It's guild number 2258. If you're not sure how guilds work, drop me a message and I will talk you through it. But basically, you go to bgg/guild/2258. I think that's it. Yep. And then on there, you need to join the guild so that you're a member of the guild. And then you need to subscribe. And I'm saying you need to subscribe because otherwise what will happen is you'll never see anything. Nothing will ever show up in your notifications. And these days, if you don't get a notification that there is something to go and look at, you generally don't go and look at it. Now, don't worry, you're not going to get flooded with stuff. There are very few posts in there, but it's a place where people can go and have discussions and talk about things. And the reason why I prefer the BGG Guild to places like Facebook or even my Slack channel for Patreon supporters is the stuff there on BGG is permanent. So I get asked quite a lot of questions about what equipment do I have? And I'm going to put that on the guild so that whenever anybody asks in future, can go onto the guild. So it's guild number 2258. Please pop on there, please subscribe and start some conversations about things or join in with the existing ones. So the questions that I've been asked in advance from there are, and the first one is from Doris, who says, will you have time to do a solo playthrough of the Mage Knight game? I know you love it. So I have been doing a lot more solo playthroughs recently, thanks to the support of the Patreon campaign. And Mage Knight is my #1 favourite game of all time. So why am I not doing a solo playthrough of Mage Knight? Well, it's on the list. So every month my Patreon supporters vote on what game I'm going to be doing a solo playthrough of, and Mage Knight is on that list. And 1 month, it's going to get more votes than anything else. But saying that, like a lot of games, I feel Mage Knight works better as a 2 to 3 player game. So if I'm going to play Mage Knight, I would probably want to be doing that. I'd probably want to be playing it multiplayer. And that's on the list as well as a possible future thing. So yeah, it might happen. It might happen. Now, this is a question in from Brendan, who is in the chat. I know you don't call yourself a solo gamer, but you have been doing a lot more of them on the channel. Yeah, again, as mentioned, the monthly vote. Are you enjoying them? Now, that is a good question. So, as mentioned, every month my Patreon supporters vote on which solo game I will play through this month. And what they voted on for me to play through in February was Feast for Odin, which I did yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. So yesterday, and that video is on the channel now. If you want to see me doing a solo playthrough of Feast for Odin, that is there on the channel. However, this month I'm also doing a review. I say this month, it's this week. I don't know how I'm going to fit all this in this week, but I'm doing 2 reviews this week, Black Angel and Expedition to New Dale, both of which have solo modes. So I figured, well, I've got to play the solo mode ready to do a review of the game. So why not live stream it? So I've actually done 3 solo live streams this month. I'm guaranteed to do 1 a month supported by the Patreon campaign. I might do more. Am I enjoying them? Yes and no. The reality is that I wouldn't do these solo playthroughs if I wasn't live streaming them and people weren't watching or commenting later, right? Because I just don't give myself the time to do solo games at home. If I had, and the thing is, I am sort of enjoying them, but I think I'm enjoying them because other people are watching them, other people are benefiting from the videos, and I am producing them as well for other people to watch. Also, and if you've watched the Feast for Odin video yesterday, you will know that my memory, my short-term memory, is a real problem. So many times in the Feast for Odin video yesterday, if it weren't for Matt in the chat, thank you very much, Matt Levy, Levy? I'm not sure which. But anyway, Matt, pointing out all these things that I didn't do. Oh, you forgot to do that. Oh, and you forgot to do that. And you forgot rounds 3. Oh, and you forgot to do this. My brain, I mean, obviously I'm live streaming at the time, so my anxiety is a bit higher than normal. And I'm trying to concentrate on the live stream. I'm trying to make sure everything's working. But that's the problem I have with solo games. I forget things. I will get halfway through a game and go, did I forget to do the upkeep phase? Have I done this? Have I done that? And literally my mind is just completely blank. At which point I'll just pack the game up. So many times in the past I have tried playing solo games at home and I got frustrated because of the short-term memory issues that I have. But doing the live streams, that's actually been really helpful. And I've enjoyed Black Angel solo, Expedition to New Dale solo, and Feast for Odin solo. But that's because they're good games. Has any games that you've played solo given you the urge to just reset them and play through them straight afterwards? Every single one of them. Black Angel, enjoyed the solo playthrough, lost by a few points, wanted to play it again straight away. Expedition to New Dale, Didn't play it again straight away because it was late. Played it again the next morning. Got up early the next morning, played it again before I put it away. So yeah, and I remember Feast for Odin, the first time I played that solo. I played it solo in about half an hour and then just literally swept all the components to the side, played it again. And I did that 5 times in a row. So yeah, I have done that with a few games. I'll just switch to the chat just to make sure everybody's still here. Yeah, a few people are here. Yeah, Johnny's saying he liked the playthrough of Feast for Odin last week. Yeah, so last week was the multiplayer one. Yesterday was the solo one, which took an hour and 3/4, which baffled me because I thought it was going to be like a 30-minute game, maybe 40 minutes, and it was an hour and 3/4. So yeah, we will see. Right, okay, back to the questions that I've been asked in advance. So this is from Timothy over in Hong Kong. And he's saying that he's talking about rulebook editing and content creation, and it makes him curious on how to make a good video and a good rulebook. Now, this isn't something that I can answer quickly in a live Q&A. I actually do a seminar once every so often, and I'm doing it at UK Games Expo this year on tips on writing a good rulebook, and that's like a 45-minute seminar, and that doesn't cover everything. That just covers a particular area of rulebook writing, more the process rather than the actual words. In a nutshell, how you learn to write and do rulebook layouts. Like a lot of things in life, there is a skill there that you can be taught. You can be taught what makes a good layout and what doesn't make a good layout. But there's a lot of it that is just natural ability. And thankfully, and I don't mean this to sound arrogant, but I'm known as a fairly good rulebook editor, and I'm saying fairly good. The people who know me will say that I'm better than fairly good, but I'm trying to be a bit modest. And how did I get there without actually having any formal training in that particular areas? Because I'm a gamer. I know what I like. I know when you're reading a rule book and it starts talking about on page 1 the fact that there's 6 different actions and there's 4 phases in a round, and I'm like, hang on a minute, you haven't told me what the game's about yet. Tell me what the game's about first. I know that as a gamer. I know the order in which I want to read things in. And I don't want to get to 24 pages in the rule book and then it say, this is how you win the game. No. It needs to tell me roughly how to win at the start. So that's just one example, but I've picked up skills at knowing how to do good rule books, basically from reading bad ones and just absorbing a lot of information about good rule books. Videos, I'm self-taught at the whole process of doing videos. Again, that's a good thing for the BGG Guild. I'm more than happy to do a video on it or write a process on it, but it's not something I can quickly answer in a live Q&A. And again, Timothy wants to know about the hardware that I'm using. The camera lens, I don't have a camera lens. I just have 3 video cameras pointing around the room, but none of them have any special lenses. They are just normal video cameras. I don't use DSLRs or anything like that. Lighting temperature is turned up to the full white, so 5600K. And again, I'm more than happy to post about all of the different equipment I've got, the lighting and stuff like that, but the BGG Guild is probably the best place for that. Right, okay. Next one is from Chewy. Should someone who has enjoyed the mechanisms of Gloomhaven but found that the storyline is not that gripping, plus there's way too little variety in the scenarios, enjoy Frosthaven more? So the only reason that I know Frosthaven has less kill them all scenarios is because Chewy has told me that. I actually know very little about Frosthaven at the moment. I've been sent some sneak preview information, but I haven't read through it yet. But I know there's 100 scenarios. I know that you're building up a city. I have been sent the board, the map of the board, which I've posted on social media. So if you want to see that, check out my Twitter profile or Facebook profile for Gaming Rules. And I have been told that there are less kill them all scenarios. Now, Gloomhaven has come in for some criticism over the years of a lot of the scenarios are very similar and a lot of them are just kill all enemies. Now, having played Gloomhaven for 3 years, having played 60 different scenarios, there are a few that felt similar. But I personally believe that the people who say, oh, it's just a series of dungeon bashes with kill all enemies, that's not my experience with it. Even the scenarios which are kill all enemies are very different. Some of them are the same, but a lot of them are very different. Now, the last few scenarios we've been doing have all been very different. I mean, one of them was kill all enemies. Another one was get to a certain point in the map. Another one was to open all doors. Just that, nothing else. Another one was to survive a certain number of rounds. We've played a lot of them recently, and they are good. But I personally believe that the ones that are kill all enemies are not as similar as people say they are. I think the game gets a lot of discredit for, oh, every scenario is just the same. No, I don't think it is. Will Frosthaven be any different? I've been told it is. That's all I can go off. Right, questions in from Ray. Whenever you give an opinion, either in a Q&A or a review or a vlog, you always caveat it with, I work in the industry, I have clients, etc., etc. Yes, I do. Do I actually receive abuse or negative comments when giving your honest opinion? So, not much, not as much as some. But the reason why I always caveat it with, I work in the industry and these people are a client, is I'm preempting the complaints. I don't want anybody to go away and go, oh, well, Paul's just said that game is brilliant, but wait a minute, they are paying him to do videos and rule books. And there he is saying it's brilliant. The board game industry used to have a reputation, it's less so now, but it does still exist, that there are some people out there that are shills. Some people out there will post regularly on social media about a game, saying how great it is constantly, and it turns out that they have been paid some money to help promote that game. It happens, okay? I know it happens. I'm not going to start naming people, and there are some people out there who think it doesn't happen, and because I'm not naming anybody, I'm just making it up. I have been offered money to do those things. I've said no. Okay, so it's out there, it does happen. Some people are very good about it, some people are very upfront about it and say that they are, and some other people are not so much. I don't want any of that to come back on me. So I'm always, ever since I started doing commission videos right from the start, I always made it clear that this video is sponsored by the publisher. They have paid me to create a video. I try to make it clear on that. Any thoughts on the Cool Mini or Not, or Come On, as they're now known, Marvel United? No. Apart from I don't have any interest in it, so I haven't really looked into it. I know there was loads of people complaining about it for whatever reason, because people like complaining about things. Do we need another Marvel game? Is it this? Is it that? I haven't looked into it because I think it's a miniatures game, I think. And I don't really have much interest in it. Although, isn't there a miniatures game from Fantasy Flight as well? Crisis Protocol. Maybe I'm getting it mixed up. But Marvel Champions, the card game, that's the Marvel game for me. Love that. Don't really have much interest in anything else. Troyes versus Black Angel. Black Angel all the way. I have only played Troyes once, or Trois, if I pronounce it correctly. But I don't particularly like the art style of Trois. I'm in the minority on that. I know I'm in the minority, but I personally don't like that art style. And I can't actually remember much about the game. I know the two games are very similar, whereas I think the artwork and the graphic design of Black Angel is quite clean. So if the two games are very similar, I'd probably go with Black Angel every time. Final question in from Ray is, John Gets Games has recently started doing a podcast, which is the equivalent of his video logs and live Q&As, which has been successful. Ever thought about doing it? Now, you're not the first person to ask Ray. John Gets Games is a friend of mine. He produces fantastic content. If you don't know the John Gets Games channel, go and watch it, because his playthrough videos are brilliant, absolutely brilliant. One of the few channels that I actually watch because his content is so good. And one of the best things is he always puts annotations on screen. Like a lot of people, when they're doing these playthroughs, mistakes are made. He puts annotations on screen, so you can learn the game safely from it. Anyway, yeah, this isn't the first time I've been asked, but it's one of those things. Right now, I am spending a lot of time doing a lot of admin, like hours and hours and hours a week, just doing bits of admin for things that are not really paid for. It's effectively time lost. So I'm concerned. At the moment, the Patreon campaign isn't quite bringing in enough money. So it's bringing in a lot of money, right? It's bringing in money. That's good. When I look at how much time I'm spending doing non-commissioned stuff, the Patreon campaign is working out at not as much. Anyway, so I'm concerned by doing something else, which is another 1 hour or 2 hours extra admin to convert stuff like this video or my monthly video logs into a podcast. However, I have reached out to John. I've asked John for help. If John can talk me through the process and say, oh, it's dead easy, it takes 5 minutes. But I'm going to have to get set up on Libsyn, which is a podcast service. I'm going to have to do all of that. And at the moment, I just don't have the time to look into that. Maybe I will in a few weeks' time, or maybe I can get somebody else to look into it for me and I'll happily pay them. But I'm prepared to do it. I just need to I need to work out how much extra admin it's going to be. Right, let's just check that the chat is working okay, which it is. Yeah, so I will get to these questions in a minute. I'm going to try and go through all of the ones, first of all, on the BGG Guild. Then I'll go to the live questions. Then I'll go to the Facebook group. And this is why I get all flustered, because there's about 100 questions and I don't know how I'm going to answer them all. But yeah, thank you for all the questions in advance. So this is from Tommy, who I think was in the chat earlier, I think. Right. Can you or someone in the guild recommend a board game convention somewhere in Europe, preferably in the late summer or autumn? This is a perfect question for the guild. So what I'd like you to do, Tommy, is if you can go back to the guild and post that as a separate thread, that would be the best thing, because then different people on the guild can basically go on there and give the answers. Yeah, recommend a board game convention somewhere in Europe in the late summer. Well, there's GridCon, but that's not really the late summer. That's the end of June. Yeah, lots of people will be able to give you lots of advice. I can tell you which ones I'm going to, but that's not to say that there aren't other ones, because they're going on every other weekend, or even every weekend. And it depends what you want out of a convention. Do you want 200 people playing games in a room? Do you want exhibitors? Do you want publishers there doing demos? It really depends what kind of convention you want to. So I have the UK Games Expo in May, then I've got Origins in June, then I've got GridCon in June. Then I have ManaCon in July, which I go to in Loughborough, Leicester. Then I have GenCon, which I go to in August. And then that's it till Essen. I currently don't have anything else in my calendar after GenCon. Oh no, I do, I've got HandyCon. If I go to HandyCon, which I want to, but it's right after GenCon. So yeah, I need to book that in my calendar as well. Let's book that in my calendar live while we are here now, so I don't forget. There you go. HandyCon is now in my calendar. So yeah, I don't have anything after HandyCon before Essen, but that's a good question for the guild. Right, that is it from all of the questions in advance on the BGG Guild. Let's go back to the questions in the chat, and there's a lot of questions in the chat. I'll apologise if I miss some of them. There's chat about the Kickstarter project. So Alan Paul, who's in the chat, and is a friend of mine. He's got 2 games on Kickstarter right now, which I've done videos for. So that is the Ming Voyages, co-designed with David Mortimer, and also the March of Progress. 2 little games, little box games on Kickstarter right now. I've done videos for them last week, and it funded earlier on today. So congratulations on that. Right. And yeah, I'm going to be doing a solo playthrough of Ming Voyages at some point. Right. Any news on when Anachronis Fracture of Time expansion is coming out? I'm not sure. I've not looked into it. Obviously, production problems in China, but yeah, I'm not aware. I'm not privy to that sort of information. Adam's going out to see The Dead South. I don't know what that is, but he's watching while getting ready. Cool. Oh, they're an amazing band. There you go. Nomi's here. Hi, thank you for joining in. And a question from John Sullivan is, since Dice Tower did the top 10 enemies of gaming recently, what would be your top 3 in the same vein? I've not seen that video. So I'm not sure what the videos is. Enemies of gaming. Yeah, I don't know. But that's a question you can pop on the guild. My guild's going to be busy, isn't it? Lots of people are going to be putting questions in there. Yeah, I've not watched that video yet, so I don't know what that is. Harry is here, gave Ricky a shout out to collaborate with you. Yes, I did reach out to Vicky and I said, there's this guy called Harry and he's threatening me with violence if we don't collaborate on doing some videos together. So Ricky said, oh, well, in that case, Paul, I'm definitely going to collaborate with you. So he said yes, and we now need to work out what we're doing. Now, one of the things, me and Vicky are both fans of Cloudspire. There's a new expansion for Cloudspire coming out. It's going on Kickstarter, I think sometime in April, March, sometime at the end of March. And I am on the list of Chip Theory Games to hopefully get some materials for the game to start playing it and maybe producing some content. So me and Ricky playing through a game of Cloudspire using the new expansion material sounds awesome. However, I'm away for the second 2 weeks in March and I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to fit it in. The timing is bad for me because I'm going to the Czech Republic for week 3 in March and then I'm at Leiria in Portugal for week 4 in March. So I'm actually not here. I have an outstanding thing to do of speak to Ricky and speak to Chip Theory Games. The collaboration with Ricky is going to happen at some point anyway. Whatever we do, might be Mage Knight, might be Cloudspire, might be Too Many Bones. I don't know. It's going to happen. We need to make it happen. So thank you for that. Also, you're going to London, Leeds and York. Do you have any recommendations for local board game stores? So London, actual board game stores in London. There is one called Orc's Nest. It's been there for decades. It's a really small one. It's in Covent Garden. I've not been for about 20 years. That's the only one that I know of in central London itself, as far as a board game store is. There is Leisure Games, which is in Finchley, which is a little bit outside of central London. As for Leeds and York, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. Flying Monkey Nut says, Paul is definitely better than fairly good at rulebook editing. Well, thank you. What is the worst rulebook you've seen recently? Oh, worst and the best. Good questions. Worst rulebook I've seen recently. I'm trying to think of a rulebook. I mean, it's not fair for me to say one of the ones that I'm working on because the publisher won't like it if I say it was the worst rulebook, but then it's my job to rewrite it and make it better. Oh, I'm not sure actually. I think the rulebooks have been pretty good recently. I'm trying to think of the ones that I've played recently, which I've had to read the rulebook on. So Black Angel, Expedition to Newdale, Feast for Odin, things like that. My memory is stuck on the ones that I've learned recently. I can't think of a bad rulebook recently. I'd have to think about that. Best, a few of them have been really good. I mean, I said earlier on, you know, Cooper Island is a very, very good rulebook. For a heavy game, that's probably the best one that I've read recently. Vince has asked a very good question. Do you listen to many podcasts? Oh no, hang on. He's accidentally scrolled down. Vince did ask a very good question and I've missed it and then it skipped to another Vince's question. Here we go. Have you played much more Age of Steam since the last live stream? So here you go, Vince. Friday night this week, we're doing Age of Steam live stream. So no, I haven't played any more since. I've been wanting to because that game that we played was very odd. And I'm still undecided about Age of Steam because that game was a problem in that by round 2, I'd won and Paul had lost. And then we played for another 2 hours. And unless I did anything stupidly wrong, I was going to win. And that was because it was a 3-player game. Paul and Tom kind of bid a little bit too much in round 1 and just let me have something for not a lot. But that happening there and then actually caused me to win the game. Now, I did play fairly well after that, but it wasn't that did it. It was that thing that happened in round 1, and that pretty much decided the game. So that's not good in a long game where there's lots of decisions that it's decided on that early. Tom did really well. Tom played brilliantly to try and catch up with me. He was by far the better player, but because things had just gone well for me in round 1, it all kind of snowballed from there. So I want to play it more. I like the mechanisms within it. I'm just not sure the game actually hangs together, and it's so well respected and so well liked. We will see. On Friday, we're doing a 6-player game, which people have said I'm crazy, but 6 people want to come round. Well, sorry, 5 people want to come round. I don't want to say no to my friends that want to come round. So we're going to do a 6-player live stream of Age of Steam on Friday. It's going to be a nightmare. We're going to be here all night. Get the coffees out. Right. This is a question from Gary. Once I heard you mention about having a Patreon meetup at JaneCon this year. Any updates about that? No updates. It will be happening. I'm not sure which night, but I'm going to try and have a discussion with, I'm going to have a discussion with CGE that one of the evenings, I'm going to basically have the meetup in the CGE room, but if the CGE room doesn't close until 10 o'clock, might be a bit late for me, I'm not sure. But that's probably the best place to do it. There will be one, I just don't know exactly where and when yet. So yeah, watch this space. I try and do Patreon meetups at every convention I'm going to. So there will be one at Aircon happening in a couple of weeks' time. Although I'm not at Aircon, there is going to be a Gaming Rules Patreon meetup at Aircon. So if you are a Patreon supporter and you're going to Aircon and you don't know about this meetup, let me know and I'll put you in contact with the people who are going to the meetup. But there will be one at UK Games Expo. GridCon is kind of... I'm not going to have a Patreon meetup at GridCon because, yeah, GridCon is my own convention. LyriaCon. We're probably going to have one at LyriaCon as well. Tabletop Scotland. Yes, there's Tabletop Scotland, which I'd love to go to, but again, it's a bit far away, and I can't justify that time off. So, Vince is saying, besides Mage Knight, what are some of your go-to solo games? I'm still getting into the solo gaming. And as I say, I've only played Mage Knight solo once, and that was about 6 years ago. I would have said right now, I don't have a go-to solo game. Because right now, I'm just trying to play as many different ones as I can to get experience of them. Thoughts on the Merlin Big Box Kickstarter? I have just seen that today. I have just heard about it. Did you end up playing the first expansion? No, I still haven't played the first expansion. So my thoughts on the Merlin Big Box Kickstarter is that I will be contacting Queen Games and asking if they want to give me a copy of the game. I'll be doing some videos for it because I really like Merlin. I've heard the expansion's really good, so I want it basically. So yeah, I'm going to try and get hold of that. Do I listen to many podcasts? Unfortunately not. Again, limited time. And because I work so much at home and I don't give myself breaks, I don't actually have any time to listen to podcasts. You know, I don't travel anywhere. And when me and Vicky go somewhere, we have lots of Radio 4 comedy shows that I like to watch. And the Jim Butcher Dresden Files audiobooks, I try and listen to them whenever I can. And I'm actually listening to the Ringworld audiobook by Larry Niven, because I read that when I was a lot younger. And I thought it was fantastic. But yeah, I don't have much downtime. I'm always doing something. So yeah, I don't have the downtime to listen to much podcasts, unfortunately. Daryl is here in the chat. Hi Daryl, thank you very much. And Alan is saying we could do a sesh at LyriaCon. Yes, we're going to do something at LyriaCon. Travelling Man in Leeds and York. There you go. If you wanted a good suggestion, that's from Paul from Games Law. Speaking of Paul from Games Law, let's do the thing now because it's 5:30. So all of these live Q&As are sponsored by Games Law. Now what that means is that Games Law basically give me a £25 voucher to give away to somebody who is watching live. If you are watching this live, you are in with a chance of winning £25 worth of games vouchers. And all you need to do is send me an email. paul.grogan@outlook.com is the email address. I will put that in the chat right now. paul.grogan@outlook.com. There you go. That's my email address. Send me an email now if you are watching this live. If you're not watching this live, don't send me an email because the contest closes at the end of this live Q&A. And this is a game called On the Underground that I'm going to be talking about in a minute. What I'd like you to do is in your email, send me your favourite London Underground train station name, or assuming that the Berlin train stations have names, send me your favourite Berlin Underground train station name. So whether it be Finsbury Park, Morden, whatever, just send me the name of a London Underground train station name or a Berlin one, and I will enter you into a contest. If you are a patron supporter, please mention that in the email and you will get 2 entries into the contest instead of 1. I will basically do a draw at the end of this live Q&A and somebody's going to win £25 worth of game vouchers. Claire won last month and got a copy of Feast for Odin Norwegians with it. So yeah, and I'll talk about this in a minute. Right, let's just finish the live chat. Let's get up to date. My favourite Vital Lacerda game right now is probably On Mars because I've played a lot more of that. But I like On Mars, I like Vignos, I like Lisboa, I like Kanban. I'm less keen on the Gallerist and Escape Plan. And I don't like the original version of CO2 because it's semi-co-op and I think semi-co-op games are flawed. And I haven't played the new one. So there we go. That's a rough one. Dark Sphere is apparently a London shop. Okay, right. If a rulebook is written by an experienced gamer, it may result in a rulebook that is only understandable by a gamer. Yes, this is from Student Walk. And also, a rulebook that's written by the designer and then checked by their friends who already knew how to play the game. Oh, wow. I have seen so many of them. The number of times that I have had emails saying, Paul, here's a rulebook. It should be fine. 6 people have checked it. And I open it up and I start reading it. And by the end of page 1, I am completely baffled. And I have no idea what's going on. Yeah, don't get people who know the game to check the rulebook. It needs to be blind checked by somebody who doesn't know anything about it. And yeah, generally speaking, game designers are not that good at writing their own rulebooks. There are some exceptions. Vlada Shavatel is very good at writing rulebooks, despite what some people might think. And I have to say, even though Alan's not in the chat, Alan sent me the prototypes for the Ming Voyages and March of Progress. And I think both rulebooks were written by Alan. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I was pleasantly surprised. I had a couple of minor comments on the rulebooks, but otherwise I read through them and I was like, yeah, okay. Every question I had was answered. And it was like, yeah, these are great. So there are some exceptions, whereas some other games that I've been sent, where the rulebook has been written by the designer, are nothing more than a set of notes because the designer doesn't have the skills to actually turn that into a rulebook. Right, Thick Jimmy is saying, yeah, that's Thick, T-H-I-C-C Jimmy, not Thick Jimmy. I think I heard you say that you don't enjoy miniature games. Are there any exceptions and why? So, miniature games. I mean, I grew up trying to play miniature games, like Warhammer Fantasy Battle, tried Warhammer 40k, all sorts of things like that. I have a World War II war games and things like that. I love the idea of the scenery. This is what I like about them. I like the painted miniatures, I like the dioramas, I like the scenery, and I spent decades making scenery and doing all of this, and I tried dozens of different wargaming systems. One of the reasons I don't like them is the measuring, because I need things to be accurate. If I'd have only learnt more about me as a person and my personality when I was younger, and actually listened and realised what type of person I was, that would have saved years of frustration. I'm the kind, I've got OCD like a lot of people have. I'm very fussy in particular areas. I need things done in a certain way. I need things to be precise. I follow the rules to the letter, and I will stop a game for a good few minutes to look up the answer to the rule on BGG. And I know some people don't want to do that. Some people go, look, Paul, you're interrupting the game. Let's just make up a rule and move on. No. I'm going to spend a few minutes looking up the rule on BGG because I want to get it right. That's the type of person I am. I class it as a personality flaw, but without that flaw, I probably wouldn't be as good at certain things that I am without it, you know, like doing the videos and doing the rule books. Now, the reason I'm saying this is in a lot of war games, you have to measure distances, okay? Or you have to get at the end of the table and you have to, can I see it or can I not? And if it's ambiguous, I don't like ambiguity. And that's the personality trait I have. I do not like ambiguity. So when you're measuring something, you're like, oh, well, it's on 6 inches. Or is it just over 6 inches? Right. War games with hexes, yes, I'm okay with that. But also, the other reason I don't like miniature games that much is effectively they are just fighting. I mean, I've played a bit of Red Alert Space Fleet Warfare recently because I've spent 9 months painting the miniatures for it. And at the end of the day, it's just moving things around, rolling dice and shooting each other, right? I much prefer something a bit more involved, a bit more thinky. It's not to say I didn't enjoy it. I had a great night. But as far as a game goes, miniature games are not my thing. If you turned up with a massive collection of 40k miniatures with Land Raiders all beautifully painted, or Star Wars Legion or something like that, and said, let's have a game, I would be well up for it and I would love it. Worst rulebook, Trismegistus. Yes, you're absolutely right, David. That is one of the worst rulebooks that I've read of all time, and it is probably the worst rulebook that I have read recently. I say recently, it was a good 4 or 5 months ago now, but yeah, the rulebook is awful. Have you seen the new Marvel Champions updated rulebook? So I've seen that there was one, but I haven't looked at it yet. Marvel Champions is a game I really want to play more of. There's reasons why I haven't. One of them is time, and the other one is that I was supposed to be doing some coverage for Asmodee of the game, and that agreement seems to have fallen apart, and it's a bit confusing, but I do want to be playing more of it, and I've seen that there's a new rulebook today. I need to look at it to see what's changed. Sabe is saying, thank you so much for your videos. Best explanations on complex games. Thank you. That is one of my specialist areas. What is my favourite board game theme, genre and mechanic? Now, I use the term mechanism rather than mechanic. Favourite board game theme, it varies. I like fantasy. I like sci-fi. I like building cities in medieval Europe. I like trading in the Mediterranean. I don't know whether I have a favourite theme as such. For me, the game itself is like Great Western Trail, one of my favourite games of all time, my favourite game of 2016. What's the theme? Moving cowboys across America and selling them to Kansas. I have no interest in that theme whatsoever, but the game is fantastic. So, yeah, I'm not sure I have favourite themes. I obviously do have favourite themes, but it doesn't really matter to me. Favourite mechanisms, yeah, I love worker placement, I love deck building, yeah, all sorts of stuff like that. Oh, Student Walk says, you are Timothy from BGG. Excellent, right, thank you. And yes, pop on, if somebody has recorded your seminar about rulebook editing, well, we'll see, because I'm doing it again this year. I'm doing it at UK Games Expo this year on the Saturday afternoon. So hopefully somebody will record that. I think it was recorded 2 years ago, and I think I have a copy of it on my computer somewhere. I might put it up on my channel, but we'll see this year's. We'll see if this year's is recorded, and if it is, and it's better, I might put that one up instead. Steve Randall is here. Excellent. Thank you for joining in, Steve. Ross is here. Ringworld series is one of my favourites, says John Sullivan. Now, you're saying the Ringworld series. Ah, yeah, there is a series, isn't there? I've only read Ringworld, but there are other ones. So, yeah, I need to look into them. Ross is watching live, but in the US. Shipping would not make it worth it for you. Yeah, so here's the thing. If you enter the contest, Ross, and you win, you get to spend £25 worth of vouchers at Games Law, but then Games Law will send it to me, and I will bring it with me when I come to Origins and or Gen Con. And if you know anybody that's going to Origins or Gen Con, I can bring it over. So we can make that work. I've done that before for people in the US that have won. 6-player Age of Steam, Vince, wow. The most important thing is that you make sure you play a map that is meant and designed with that player count. Yeah, I've been looking on BGG, and according to the forums, Southern US or France say they both work with 6 players. So they're the two that I'm going to look at. Now, you're saying that the Southern US and the Western US are the only maps from the Deluxe that work at that count. But check France, because I do have the expansions, and I have France, and it says France works at 6 as well. Daryl is asking me what is my take on Feast for Odin with Norwegians. It's fantastic. I still think the base game is brilliant, but I think it's better with Norwegians. So I will now not ever play. I will now not never play without triple negatives. I will always use the Norwegians expansion. Yeah. Did you get Phil Petty for something nice for his 50th birthday, or did you ignore him like the rest of us at Hemel? I didn't know it was his 50th birthday. So now, what that means is Facebook didn't remind me that it was his 50th birthday, and I'd forgotten. So I will have to drop him a message because it's my 50th this year, and I didn't realise Phil was older than me. 50. Wow, that's scary. That's like really old, isn't it? He says, being 50 in a matter of a few months. So yeah, I will drop Phil a message and wish him happy birthday. Alan is just clarifying that the rule books were written by him, but there were other experienced rulebook writers involved, like Dave Mortimer and David Turtsey. Basically, yeah, if you're called Dave, you're normally good at it. Right. Question in from Arzakel. If you were challenged to pick a game where you would feel you have the best chance of winning, what game would that be? Ooh, that's a good one. What game am I naturally good at that I seem to have the best chance of winning at? I'd have to look back through my record. I mean, there are some games in the past where I just seem to do well without actually trying too hard. And it's just because the natural way that the game plays suits my natural play style. But right now I can't think of one, because a lot of the people in my area are pretty good at gaming. So yeah, I'd have to think about that. Maybe pop that question onto the BGG Guild, and I'll have a look back through all of the games that I've played in the last year to see which ones I've actually done better at. I record my plays on BGG, but I don't use BG Stats. So I don't have detailed information about how many of the games that I've won. I kind of don't really want to record that information because it's not important to me. But now that you've asked, I am curious. Christine is here. You went to the zoo this week. What is your favourite animal to watch at the zoo? So I went to Exmoor Zoo on Monday, and this was a bit of a... I could talk for ages about this because there's actually a personal story behind it that I don't want to go into too much detail here. But if you're ever at a convention and I'm drunk, and I'll tell you about it. But anyway, we went to the zoo on Monday, and the rain and the wind and the fog was horrendous. The people at the zoo were surprised anybody even turned up. It was that bad. And we were one of a few people who did actually go for the day, and we made the most of it. We spent all day there. We were the last people to leave. We were the first people to arrive, and we saw as much as we could. And one thing about Exmoor Zoo that I really liked is 75% of the animals that were there I'd never heard of. Well, no, probably 50%. Never heard of them. Some weird thing with a funny name, and then another weird thing with a funny name that I'd never heard of, and then another one with a funny name that I'd never heard of. There were things there that I'd not even ever heard of, never seen before, or anything else. So it was really odd. It's hard to pick my favourite, but the meerkats, I mean, you can't not love meerkats. They're meerkats. And the first time we saw the meerkats in the enclosure, the rain was coming down and the wind was blowing, and we caught a glimpse through a glass panel of where they were staying, and they were all cuddled up together like this, shaking because it was really cold. And then when we came back a few hours later, it was feeding time, and they were all outside, and we walked up, and as soon as we walked up and looked over the fence, they all lined up and stood up, which is what the picture was on the thumbnail that I was using for this. And that was just amazing. It was that all there just stood up looking at me going, feed me. And that was brilliant. So yeah, I love meerkats, but there were some really other ones. There were the sand cats, which are owned by some sheikh from Arabia or something. They were really cool. Yeah, lots of good animals there. Right, okay, so what else have we got in the chat? I might actually just flip over now to talking about the reason this is on. Where's my water? Right, so quick plug for my Patreon campaign, because I have basically taken, the way that these videos work is I've taken a couple of hours off my paid work today in order to create this video. And obviously Games Law are sponsoring it by giving £25 worth of games vouchers to somebody who's watching, but I don't get any money out of that. My Patreon campaign is what funds these videos. And I'd mentioned earlier, I've done a Feast for Odin solo playthrough yesterday. Again, that was 2 hours off work. Last week, I did a Black Angel solo playthrough. I did an Expedition to Newdale solo playthrough. Tomorrow, I'm doing a review of probably Black Angel. Friday, I'm doing a review of Expedition to Newdale. That's a lot of content which is not paid for. And my Patreon campaign basically funds me to create all of this stuff. So a massive thank you to all of my Patreon supporters for basically allowing me to do what I do. A lot of you are watching live in the chat, so thank you very much. And the reason I'm mentioning that now is that every month I run a contest, and this is what you can win this month. And I'm mentioning this now because we are on the 26th of February, and there's only 2 days left of this month. I do the draw at the end of the month. So if you want to be within a chance of winning a copy of On the Underground, London, /Berlin, if you've considered supporting me on Patreon before, but you've always not done for whatever reason, and you want to be in with the chance of winning this, now is the time. If you are a producer level or higher, you get automatically entered into the contest. You don't need to do anything. This is a different contest than the one that's running right now for the £25 worth of vouchers. Okay, so yeah, one of my Patreon supporters is going to win this this month, which is why it is here. Right, there we go. Quick plug for the Patreon campaign. Now I'm going to go over to Facebook. So I'll come back to the questions in the chat later, but hang fire with any new questions for now, because I'm not going to see them. Because I am now going to go through all of the questions that I've been asked on the Board Game Trading and Chat UK Facebook group. And I've had a lot. I will get through as many as I can. So the first one is from Chewy. What do I think of Batman Talisman and other versions of Talisman like Relic? See, I grew up playing Talisman, and there was nothing better when I was 13 years old that 5 friends would come round and we would spend 8 hours playing Talisman all day. That's what I did. I've moved on. I would never now not play Talisman ever in a month of Sundays, and I'm assuming that Batman Talisman and Relic Talisman are exactly the same. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of those types of games now. I can appreciate they have a market and some people will enjoy them, but for me, I want to make decisions, and I want my decisions to impact the outcome of the game rather than it just be decided by random factors, generally speaking. Right. Question in from Rick, which I've thought about this and I can't answer it, but what's my favourite fictional cat? And I was like, what are they? And he was like, Thundercats, Tom, Garfield. Yeah. So I don't really know. I don't know whether I have a favourite fictional cat. But I don't know if anybody who knows Simon's Cat, but Simon's Cat is a fictional cat. It's a cartoon strip. There's a Facebook page, probably a YouTube channel as well, but Simon's Cat is very good. So I like Simon's Cat. So we'll say that one. Quick plug for Simon's Cat there. Sergey or Alexandra, says James Hamilton, which is a reference to the meerkats. So Sergey, obviously. Matt Zitron has said, if you could game with anyone, who would you game with, no matter how famous or unattainable? If I could game with anyone. I think I've been asked this before, which famous person would I like to play a game with? And I think I said somebody like Lewis Hamilton, just because it would be so cool to introduce somebody like that to something which he's probably never heard of, and he'd probably like. But yeah, that's a tricky one. Somebody who I would game with. Famous or unattainable. I'd really have to think about that one. Ask me next month and I'll probably give you the same answer. Paul from Games Law is saying, will the impact of coronavirus delaying production, shipping, and therefore the delivery of new games allow all of us the opportunity to try all the games that we've had on our shelves that are unplayed? Yes. Good one. Because of the coronavirus and what's happening, especially in China, a lot of games that were coming out have been delayed. Will it give us time to play all of the ones on our shelf that we haven't played yet? Probably not, but it should. If a game that you've backed is not out yet because it's been delayed, go and play another game instead. There's nothing they can do about it. Delays happen. Yes, now, and Alan is saying that Ming Voyages and March of Progress are actually being produced in Europe, so it's not going to affect that. Well, you say it's not going to affect that. Not yet anyway. Right, Danny is saying, if any, what mechanism, he says mechanic, but I'm translating it to mechanism. What mechanism in board games do you think has had its day? This is a really good question. I have actually been thinking about this one for about 10 or 15 minutes beforehand. And I actually wasn't sure because his follow-up question is, which ones do I really enjoy and would like to see more of? So I like worker placement. You can't get enough worker placement because I think it's just a great mechanism. I like deck building, and I like deck building when it's done with a little bit of a twist, and I like worker placement when it's done with a bit of a twist. I have favourite mechanisms and I have ones that I don't like. I don't like blind bidding. I'm not too keen on area control that much. Have they had their day? I don't know. Has any mechanism had its day? What I'd need to do is I'd need to go back on games that are like 15 minutes or 15 years old, 20 years old, and have a look at them and see, have they had their day? Because we haven't had much auction mechanics recently, I don't think. Not like there were, and I'm thinking things like Ra, Medici, some of the classic Knizia games. I don't think we've had much auction mechanic games. I might be wrong, maybe I've just not played them enough. But yeah, good question. And I'm not sure I can answer it. What game mechanisms have had their day? Question in the live chat. See, put in there, see what you think. Question in from Jonathan. Do I see technology integration becoming more prevalent in board games, or will they continue to be an analog escape? So here's what surprises me. I'm surprised that there isn't more digital adaptation or integration at the moment. Because there was a bit, and I think now there is still only a bit. There isn't as much as I thought there might be. I thought it would take off and lots of things would introduce it. World of Yoho, for example, was the game where you put a mobile phone actually on the board and it used alternate reality. Is it alternate reality? No. What's it called? Anyway, that thing. Virtual reality? Augmented reality. That's it. I get there in the end. But then and FFG have the app to run the Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth and things like Imperial Assault and things like that. So the app integration is there, but I'm surprised it's not more so. I thought it would have taken off in a bigger way. Do I see it? I think, will they continue to be an analog escape? I hope so. I hope we're not at a situation where 50% of board games require an app. I'm happy with where we are at the moment, with some games having them and some games not having them. I'm happy with that. I totally like the analog approach. I'm not averse to digital adaptations, digital integration. But yeah. What's your favourite game mechanism? This is from Matt, and why? So I mentioned earlier on, I like deck building, I like worker placement. Why is a good one. I just do. Why do I like worker placement? I think it's got the right amount of player interaction for me, because I don't like direct player interaction, but I like indirect player interaction. And in a worker placement game, I'm always going to go on a space that's good for me, in preference to denying you something. But worker placement games have that. They have the, oh, well, I want to go there now, but I kind of want to go there first. But if I go there first, it's the tension. And I'm playing a game of Bus online at the moment with some of my Patreon supporters. And every time it gets to my turn, and it's effectively worker placement, I'm looking at it and I'm going, oh God, well, I want to go there, but I also want to go there. But if I don't go there, Tom's going to go there. And if Tom goes there, that's going to completely mess me up. So I need to go there. And it's that decision process that I'm going through. And I really like that. Now, deck building, why do I like deck building? I just think it's cool. I love the way that you start with a deck of like not very good cards and it evolves over the game and you get that progression during the game of your deck getting better. And whether it did deck building or bag building or something like that, yeah, I really like that. Other questions on the Facebook group from Rick. If you were an Arkham Horror card game investigator, which class would you be? Definitely Seeker. Of the 5 classes that are available, I would definitely choose Seeker. I think it more suits me. I'm not really beaty up, go round with guns shooting people. The Survivor one, I'm not sure on that. Rogue, I'm not sure on that. So probably Mystic or Seeker. Mystic because it's cool, because you're casting spells, and you've got to balance. Some of the spells you cast have a negative effect, so you've got to find the balance. But I like detectives. I like walking around with a magnifying glass, reading books, deciphering things, searching for clues. That's more my kind of character. It's like playing an escape room game. So I would definitely be a Seeker. And if Emily hadn't chosen Seeker in the current campaign that we're playing, I'd have totally gone for that. And next time I'm going to ask if I can play the Seeker character, if she doesn't mind playing something else. What would your stats be? Probably not very high. Graham Parton says, what game do you think has the best modelled real world conditions you are playing? For example, Flamme Rouge. Flamme Rouge is the answer to that. The best game that actually the game mechanisms within the game model reality. And I think Flamme Rouge is, I've said this so many times over so many years or months, whatever, is that the mechanisms in Flamme Rouge are the best example of a thematic Euro game. It is a Euro game, but the mechanisms actually fit with how I think real life would play out. There's probably other ones as well, but Flamme Rouge is a very, very good example. He's also suggesting the way that outbreaks work in Pandemic. Yeah, that's another one. You know, you've got 3 on a space. If a 4th one was to be added, you get an outbreak and it spreads to a nearby city. So that works as well. But definitely Flamme Rouge. I'm not sure of another one. Matthew Lewis is saying, with there being many Marvel editions of games popping out at the moment, what IP would you like to see applied to an original board game, and what mechanisms would it have? That is another really good question. What IP would you like to see applied to an original board game? I think I've been asked this in a Q&A a couple of months ago, because there's so many board games that have been based on an IP, and there's so many IPs that have already got board games. I mean, what IPs do I like? I think my answer at the time was Dresden Files, because there is a Dresden Files card game, which I was a little disappointed by, because I really love the Dresden Files, and I felt the card game was a little bit of just an abstract puzzle game, and it didn't really feel at all like I was in the Dresden Files. The setting could have been anything. Now, I say that I do have the digital version of the card game, and I quite like it as a puzzle game. And I'm probably going to be doing a live stream of me playing through it at some point in the next couple of months, because they sent me a Steam code for it, so I'm going to probably do that. But I'd love to see an actual proper Dresden Files board game, a bit like maybe something like the Arkham horror game, something more involved. That's what I'd like to see, and I think that's the answer I gave last time, so I'm going to give the same ones this time. What game mechanisms would it have? Well, it wouldn't have worker placement. It might have deck building, but maybe not. Just because I like deck building. It would definitely have exploration. It would definitely have clue finding of some form or other. It would have combat in there with some form or another. But yeah, I'm not sure. Right, questions in from Bez. Now, Bez hasn't asked me any questions for the last couple of live Q&A, so welcome back, Bez, to the questions. Serious question first, which means you know it's going to get silly later. If you were in a new city or country and didn't know anybody, how would you make friends? Well, I'll tell you what I did when I moved from Hertfordshire down to Devon. Well, we moved to Somerset first. We moved to Taunton in Somerset. And what I did is I found the local board games clubs and the local board game shops and went there. And that's it. Everybody I know, everybody who I'm friends with, I am friends with through board gaming. I have no other hobbies outside of board gaming. And now that my place of work is here and my job is board gaming, every single person that I know that isn't family is board gaming. And that is how I did it. I would find the local shop, find the local cafe, go along, introduce myself, and basically meet people that way. That's how I would do it. Would board gaming be your main desired socializing time? It would be my only socializing time, because I'm sad and I don't do anything else. For the purpose of this question, ignore your need to play games for work. Yeah, that's fine. I did. Well, if I don't work in the board game industry, I would still do that, because that's what I did before working in the industry. Right, now we have silly questions. Have I had a pain au chocolat et amande? Now, I didn't know what one of those was, so I've Googled it, and it's a pain au chocolat with almonds on the top, and now I want one, because I like pain au chocolat, and I love almonds, so thank you very much for letting me know these exist. I need to find one of those and get one. What is the favourite colour that I have seen her wearing? Well, I think that's a silly question, because Bez wears red all the time. She wears red all the time, got bright red hair, so if I don't say red, that will be odd. Why are there so many pulls? I don't know, but there are a lot of pulls. You will notice if you've watched any of my live streams that there is an abundance of pulls. Friday's live stream was Paul, and Rob. We've had games here before that it's Paul, and Paul. This Friday's stream, it's only 50% Pauls. Unfortunately, it's Paul, Andy, Stephen, and who else is coming round? I've forgotten who's coming round this Friday. Apologies, I have forgotten somebody who is coming round this Friday. I can't remember. But anyway, there's 6 of us and 3 of them are Paul. So yes, lots of Pauls. A question in from Simon. What are some uncommon mechanisms that you'd like to see more of in games? We've talked about mechanisms a bit. I've talked about my favourite ones. I don't know. So, and my favourite ones you do see in a lot of games. I wouldn't have said they are uncommon. There's one mechanism that I have seen done well in Isle of Skye, and I haven't seen that in many other games. And that's really good, where one player picks one thing and then puts it out in front of their screen, but then there's kind of a thing where you can buy somebody else's and the money goes to them. That was quite clever, but I think that's more specific to that particular game. Maybe not. Maybe not. Question from Stephen Randall. What is the best Spiel des Jahres game? Now, this is a good question. So I have here a list of all of the Spiel des Jahres games, right back from 1979, and I've looked through them all. Now, there's some ones on here that I think are really good, and it's going to be tricky for me to pick the best one, because Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective is on there, which I think is a fantastic game, and I love it, and I think it's brilliant. But it's also a different category, it's a different style of game to all of the other ones. So the other ones on here that are on the list, Settlers of Catan, it's okay. El Grande, I think, is a fantastic game. Elfenland, I think, is a really good game. Mississippi Queen, not so much. Tikal, not so much. Torres, meh. Played it once, it was okay. Carcassonne, nah. Villa Paletti, no. Alhambra's good. Ticket to Ride is good. Niagara, I've not played. Turn on Taxis is good. Zularetto, Celtis, Dominion, Dixit, Quirkle, Kingdom Builder. Kingdom Builder's good, I like that. Hanabi's clever. Camel Up, Colt Express. Codenames, but interestingly enough, on this website, it's not called Codenames. It's called Secret Code. Because I went, Secret Code by Vladimir Shavatel, what's that? King Domino, or King Domino, that's good. Blue by Michael Kiesling. Surely it's not. That's and then Just One. Just One is fantastic. Just One is one of my favourite games of 2018. But looking at this list, if I could only play one of those, I mean, Dominion, you've got to respect Dominion because it brought us deck building. So I respect Dominion for the deck building that it brought us. If I could play only one of those games on the Spiel des Jahres list, what would it be? Because I do like Kingdom Builder. I do like Elfenland. I do like El Grande. I do like Thurn on Taxis. Not sure. There you go. I've given you a few favourite ones. I'm not sure which one would be my favourite number one game. Right. Shout out to Martin Cubberley. Happy birthday, Martin. Not Martin Anderton. It's not Martin Anderton's birthday. It's Martin Cubberley's birthday. Happy birthday, Martin. Martin now works for Longpack Games. So congratulations about getting a job in the board game industry. Right. Anthony says he asked a sensible question last time, so a silly one today. Next week is National Pie Week, apparently. Okay. What is your favourite pie? And on a related note, what is your favourite game with food? Well, I do like cherries. So cherry pie, I probably like. If we're talking dessert pie, sweet rather than savoury. Savoury, all sorts. Chicken and mushroom. Yeah, all sorts of savoury pies. But as far as sweet pies, probably cherry pie. Black cherry filling, something like that. With ice cream. Yeah. Stephen Randall says, to pimp or not to pimp games? That is the question. Now, I prefer to use the term bling because pimp has another meaning. And I try to not use the word to describe blinging up games because some people don't like that word. So I try to avoid it. Yeah, I mean, to do it or not to do it. I mean, I'm in two minds about this because playing a game which has been blinged up with super nice components. If you take Scythe, for example, if you've got a game of Scythe, you've got all of the extra components, you've got painted miniatures, it looks fantastic. The game is going to be more enjoyable to play for me because it's more aesthetically pleasing. But the time taken and the extra money to do that, should you buy another game? It's a tricky one because part of me thinks it's a waste unless you're going to be playing that game a lot. And I'd really like to get my Anacronym miniatures painted. I really would. I've not played it in over a year. So, you know, and a friend of mine has offered to paint them. And I'm really appreciative of that. But I would have bad feelings if he were to paint them all and then me not play the game for a year or two. But when I play it, wow, playing it with the painted miniatures would look fantastic. So yes, it is a question. It is a very good question. And a lot of people are doing it these days and it does look fantastic. Question in from Kieran. Which new and upcoming games designers do you think are the ones to watch? That is a really good question. I'm not actually sure. I mean, there's lots of them about, and I don't want to single out some. And there's ones that come to the top of my head, but they've actually been around a few years, so I don't think that would count. I'm just going to throw one out there, but there's probably loads that I can think of, and this might be another good question for the BGG Guild. But last year I played Fistful of Meeples and Coloma by Johnny Pat Cantin. Great. And I don't know, I think he's relatively new to games design. Ryan Courtney, who did Pipeline. It's his first game, I think. Keep an eye on Ryan. You know, there are some great games coming out there from designers that haven't done anything else. And that's just a couple that I've thought of at the top of my head. There are other ones, and apologies if I've not mentioned you, if you are watching this. Right, we're almost done, I think, with these questions, and then we can get back to the live chat. So if you've been asking questions in the live chat, I've not seen them. I am just going to switch to the live chat to make sure it is still working, which I think it is. Yeah. Oh, Nigel is saying blue would be Azul. Yes, you're right. So this website that I found is really weird because it's got code names as secret code and Azul as blue. And it's not a foreign website. How strange is that? Right, anyway, back to the questions from the Facebook group. Now, this is an interesting one. This is from Peter. What personal and moral philosophy do you have that some others may not share that also relates to the gaming hobby in some way? I could talk for ages about this. And I would probably make even more enemies if I was to answer this honestly and truly. But I do have a lot of personal morals. I have a lot of, a moral philosophy. There is a code of conduct that I live by. It's my own one. It's basically be a good person. I'm not a religious person. I don't do things because somebody will tell me that I'm going to go to hell if I do things wrong. I'm not a believer in that. I have no problems with people who do, but my own personal moral code of conduct is my own, and that's what I choose to do. And I've been made aware over the last few months that there are people within the board gaming media, content creators and industry who don't follow that. And it kind of irks me, but that's their choice. So it sort of relates to the gaming hobby. Because I try to be very, very open about the content that I have made, which is commissioned, and the content that I make, which isn't commissioned. And in the past, there have been a number of board game content creators that haven't done that. They have produced content which was paid for and they didn't disclose it. Now in America, there is a legal obligation that you have to do that. And you will see some people will put on their YouTube videos includes paid promotion because they have to do that, because they're endorsing the product. Vicky's arrived home. Hello. Hello, you got a cat? Okay. Is Loki in? Okay, good. Right, welcome back. Vicky went for a spa day yesterday, so she's very relaxed. So anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, sort of personal code of conduct. So yeah, there were some board game content creators that weren't putting it on there, and there are some now that I think possibly still don't when they possibly should. And even the ones that do, some of them, it's a bit sketchy as to whether they were paid for something or not, that I kind of hinted at earlier on. Full disclosure, I will always put on my videos which ones were sponsored, which ones were paid for, because that's the right thing to do, isn't it? It seems to be. And I know some don't. The other thing is, and this is really unfortunate, but yeah, I could go on for ages about this, and I probably won't, but there was a couple of people recently that have reached out to me, a couple of publishers that have reached out to me because they want me to talk about their product a little bit. And because obviously I've got 24,000 subscribers, I've got videos that people watch, people are going, oh, we can get Paul. Paul will talk about this and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, yeah, I could, but I'm having to take my time out from doing what I should be doing to start talking about your product. So it's really difficult for me. I don't want to appear mercenary. I don't want to go to them and say, yeah, I'll cover your content on my channel and it will cost you this much money. I kind of don't want to do that. But in the same vein, I also don't want to be just saying, yeah, I'll shill your product, even though you don't actually follow me, you don't watch any of my videos, and you haven't engaged with me before. But yeah, I'll talk about your product on my channel to help you get sales and get nothing in return for it. That's odd. And I also don't want my channel to just become product placement for still water from Aldi, for example. But there was one example recently, and you'll probably see that I have the Arkham Horror playmats here, because the Arkham Horror was played last night. And the company that makes these playmats said, Paul, we'd like you to have a couple of our playmats if you can use them in your videos and mention where the playmats came from. So they're not going to pay me any money for doing it. They will give me 2 of their playmats that are quite expensive, and I will use them in the videos, and I'll mention where they came from. And that was the agreement I made with them, and that was absolutely fine. But I heard other content creators that were saying, yeah, I'll use your product, but it's going to cost you $300 or $400. They were charging what seemed like an extortion amount of money for that product placement. And fine, if they can get that money and if they get paid for it, that's fine. But monetizing every little thing that you do feels wrong. But also, there's another thing as well. And again, I don't want to go on too much about this, but this has been bothering me because I've heard a number of stories about this recently. Some people have been sending me review copies of the games for me to cover on my channel. And I've been talking about them and I've mentioned them, and I'm always honest with them. And I say, look, I can't guarantee you'll get a review, but I might do an unboxing video. I'll talk about it on the video logs. I'll do this and I'll do that, and I'll do this and I'll do that. If I don't do that, I'm going to feel terrible. If I get a copy of somebody's game that they've sent me, that they've paid for the postage, and then I don't do anything with it, I'm going to feel bad. And some of them have come back to me recently and said, you know, thank you very much. We understand the situation. We're very happy that you even mentioned it on your vlog, or you mentioned it on your unboxing, because we've sent some review copies out to some people. They agreed to take them, and they didn't do any coverage at all. They didn't send a post. They didn't even take a photo of it and post it on social media. They literally did nothing for it whatsoever. And then when we mentioned it and we said, look, we sent you a review copy of this, could you let us know when you're planning to do some coverage of it? They went back and said, it's going to cost you this much money. I haven't got time for it. We'll do one, but it'll cost you this much money. That happens. Okay? That has happened, and it annoys me, and I would never do that. Anyway, right, before I get too angry, let's move on. It's always dangerous asking me questions like that. If you were a cat, this is more like it. If you were a cat, what would your preferred cat name be? Good question. I can tell. I don't know what name I would be if I was a cat, but I can tell you the names that we've been calling Loki. Mr. Squiggly and Captain Mayhem is what I've been calling him today. So there you go. Cute names. Chris Taylor says, if you had to pick one film, one TV series, one book, and one video game that you haven't already seen turned into board games, what would it be? It's another really good question, and I wish I'd have had more time to think about this, but I've had a lot of questions. One film turned into yeah. I'm going to delay that, right. I'm going to make a note of that question from Chris Taylor, and I'm going to put that on the guild. I am actually going to do this. So Chris Taylor, I'm going to have a proper think about that, and I'm going to put my answer on the BGG Guild. So BGG Guild 2258 is where you will find the answer to that question. Now, we're at 20 past 6. I'm going to do another quick plug. Not for this. We've done that. Oh, no, it is for this. It's not for this. There is a contest running right now. If you are watching this live, send me an email. paul.grogan@outlook.com with the name of your favourite London Underground station, or your favourite underground Berlin Underground station, okay? paul.grogan@outlook.com. I will be doing a draw at the end of this show. If you're a patron supporter, mention that and you will get 2 entries. Yeah, and this is this month's, so you're not going to win this. You're going to win £25 worth of games vouchers from Games Law. There you go. Send me that email now while the show's going out. Right, final questions. James Kenny, what classic board game and what modern board game do you think could be mashed together to produce something uniquely fun? Now, James is not going to be listening live, but he will catch it later. A classic board game and what modern board game would you mash together to produce something that's fun? I'm going to put that over to the chat. I'm going to put that question over to the live chat. Give me some examples. So yeah, pick a classic board game, think Monopoly, Cluedo, and mash it together with a modern board game and come up with something fun. That sounded like a cat. Is that a cat? No. Right. Final question, Robert Elliott, what's your favourite abstract and why? And I can answer this. I can absolutely answer this because I think Ingenious from Reiner Knizia is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And I don't play abstract games. But Ingenious from Reiner Knizia, especially the team version, 2v2, love it. Absolutely love the game. Right. I'm going to go back to the live chat now. So, questions. Monopoly Mage Knight Edition. There you go. Yeah, mash 2 games together. Mash Monopoly and Mage Knight together. There we go. Right. I'm going to scroll back up and see what questions we've missed. Okay, thankfully there hasn't been that many questions because I did ask, not too many questions while I was doing the other stuff. Can you recommend, this is from WT, can you please recommend a heavy economic game that may not be extremely well known? Oh, I only really know of ones that are well known. Arkwright, I've not played. That's quite heavy. And that's an economic game, definitely an economic game. It really depends on your definition of an economic game. Some people think any game with money is an economic game. Some people think it has to have stocks and shares for it to be an economic game. There's all sorts of different definitions of what is an economic game. But I think Arkwright might fit the bill for you. As I say, I've not played it. I've decided that it's not worth, it sounds bad, but it's not worth my time learning and playing the game. There's lots of other games out there. I'd probably enjoy it, but it's going to take me a few games to play it and get used to it, and I just don't have the time. I really don't have the time. Craftwagon? Is Craftwagon an economic game? I'm thinking of games I've not played. Automobiles, the original Martin Wallace game. I played that once. That was quite heavy. So yeah, there's a lot of heavy games. Paul Bryant from Games Law, he said that you're going to Gamma. So yeah, if somebody from the US enters today's contest and wins, Paul can actually take it to Gamma. If you are going to Gamma or know anybody that's going to Gamma. Right, Vince is saying, notice that the France map is rated at 6 as well. But you're telling me to play Southern US. Okay, well, I will look at both of them, but Vince is telling me we need to play the Southern US. I'm tempted to play France just because it's Europe, but I'll have a look at both of them. Ross is saying, is there anything that can be done with a game that you love but nobody else seems to like? Yes. Tell them that they're wrong and force them to play it. No, unfortunately, if you've got a game that you love and nobody else seems to like it, you're just going to have to either find an Ultima solo player mode or play it multiplayer yourself, or just move on. I've seen this before. I've seen people have to sell games because they said, look, I really like this game, but nobody else in our group wants to play it. And therefore it just doesn't get played. So there isn't much you can do. Ricky's saying, have we had the contest yet? Yes, we have. A couple of times, mentioned it. So yeah, drop me a message. David is off to Games Group. So yeah, thank you for joining in. Sandcats are awesome, says Linda. Yeah, really rare. Yes, they are very rare. And they're really weird. They're kind of, their heads were bigger than, Google it, look up pictures of sandcats online, because they were very cute. Oh, the other cute thing at the zoo, I've just remembered, there were 2 lemurs in a cage, and because the weather was awful, they were sat right up on this very top tall perch, and one of them had its hands in these bars like this, because the light that was providing light and heat was right there, and it was basically there like this. And then an hour later we came back, and it was still there like that. It was very cool. Right, you missed my Black Angel playthrough, says McCruel. Yeah, well, it's on the channel. So yeah, check that out. I actually did a Black Angel multiplayer playthrough at the end of last year, and I did a solo playthrough last week. So that's on the channel now. Alan Paul is saying that you reviewed Talisman for White Dwarf. Wow, that is a claim to fame. Gosh, If you have a copy of that, I'd love to see it. And I'd love to see if your opinion on the game is the same now as it was then. Because if you'd have asked me 30 years ago what my opinion of Talisman was, it would have been, oh, it's great. My friends come round and we get miniatures out and we get to the middle and then somebody gets there. And yeah. And now I'm like, no, I don't want to even waste 10 minutes playing that game. Stevie saying, yeah, okay, glad you didn't miss it. I think there is a Kingdom Hearts Talisman as well. Yeah, everything Talisman. So Jason from Lone Jedi 70 saying he loves Talisman because it's so insanely random. The thing is, the base game of Talisman, right, was one thing. But then when the first expansion set came out, and I was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. Because what used to happen in the original game is you got to the middle, and then you either used to win automatically, or you used to then start trying to kill everybody else. And generally, if you got to the middle, you won. And the expansion set came with this variable center space. And we thought this was fantastic. And so basically there are these cards, and you shuffle the cards at the start of the game, and you put one of them into the middle of the board. And whoever gets to the middle of the board first gets that card. And one of them, guess what, is you die. And at the time, we thought this was fantastic. Insanely random games. I actually have a bit of a hankering to play some of these older games like Rogue Trooper and Warlock of Firetop Mountain. They are just so random. It's crazy. Simon's Cat is great. Yes, Simon's Cat is great. Right. Question in from Sam. If you could design an expansion for a game that you're playing right now, one that you love, or one that you've just been playing lots of, what would it be? Now, I don't play anywhere near enough Aeon's End. And I really want to get into Aeon's End more, because I think the game is fantastic, and I've only got one of them. I've only got War Eternal, but I think it's fantastic. If I could design an expansion for that, I totally would, because the core mechanism is there already, and all I would have to do, make it sound easy, it's not easy, is actually try and come up with something a little cool and a little different, and some extra cards that do some special stuff. I would love to design an expansion if I had the time and the energy and the mental capacity to do so. Aeon's End is probably something that I would do. I've been meaning to do a scenario for Gloomhaven for a long time. I might actually get that done this year. Jason is saying, do I think Roll and Move has had its day? Well, that's the thing. Roll and Move should have never have had a day. But yes, Roll and Move has had its day, because you don't find Roll and Move in modern board games, apart from when it's done cleverly, like it was in Merlin. Merlin has a Roll and Move mechanism, which I think is done really well. And I think we need more of that. But yeah, just roll, dice and move shouldn't ever be anywhere near a game. Danny is saying it wouldn't actively look to add any more deck builders to your collection. Have you played Aeon's End? If you haven't, try it. Because it's so good. Even though it's a deck builder, but it's so good. And M. Cruel said you'd love to see Mortal Kombat deck building game. Okay, I'm not a personal fan of martial arts films or anything like that, but I know a lot of people are. Jason is saying he's hungry. Yeah, I'm actually quite hungry now. I need to go for a couple of reasons. The main one being that I'm getting very, very hungry. Right, any other questions in the live chat? What's the smallest, lightest game that you love? I've just remembered there were some silly questions from Bez earlier that I've not finished off. I need to go back to them. Smallest, lightest game that I love. And the reason why I've just thought of Bez is Bez created a game called Wibble++, which is being renamed, I think, to L, or the L deck. And one of the games in that you can play with it is Categorical. And it's brilliant. And I love it. It's fun. It's quick. It's frantic. It's small. You can play it with a deck of cards. Well, you can play it with the deck of cards that come with Wibble. So yeah, Categorical. And the reason why that's reminding me is, let's go back to the questions from Bez. Here we go. Carpets or wooden flooring was another question. Carpets, definitely. Because quite often I walk around without slippers on. And I like something soft underneath my feet. So carpets. I think that Dicini is the only free board game festival in the UK, whilst most French ones are free. Do you think there's a case for doing more things like Diceni on a bigger scale, like the Festival International des Jeux in the UK? Yeah, so what he's saying, because Bez has just come back from France, where she was at the Cannes Games Festival. And most games festivals, conventions in France are free. You just go to them and they're just open. Whereas almost everyone in the UK, you have to pay to get in. The one that Bez has mentioned is Diceny, I don't know how you pronounce it, which I've never heard of, but apparently that is free. So is there a case for doing more on a bigger scale? I don't know. I think we've got lots of conventions. I think possibly because it will possibly get new people in to the hobby who wouldn't necessarily, if you're a family and you saw a board games convention and it was like £10 entry each, would you go to it? If you didn't know anything about the hobby, probably not. If it was free, you might, and then you'd get in. So yeah, but how you make them free, I don't know. Will I be backing the Kickstarter for Categorical? Well, I will definitely be backing the Kickstarter to support Bez, and I will be definitely recommending that game to other people. So I didn't know there was going to be a Kickstarter for it, but there is. Are you sad to hear that no one dances on the bridges of Avignon? And when did you learn that London Bridge is not falling down? And why do these songs lie to us? Yes, very funny. So anyway, they're the questions that I missed earlier on from Bez. Thank you very much for those. Right, let's start wrapping things up. So back to the questions. So people are saying, yes, well done for keeping to my high moral standards. Thank you. It's actually lost me some friends. It's actually lost me some support of people in the board game community because I stick to them. And the other thing that I do, and that I don't want to turn this into a look at how great I am video, but I want to mention this. I charge my clients on an hourly rate. So we discuss the work beforehand and we agree a budget. And sometimes I come in under budget and I charge them less. Business-wise, that's stupid. It's stupid and it's crazy. I have a client that agrees a budget of a piece of work, £500, right? Or there's one that I've worked on last year where the budget was £2,000. £2,000 budget. It was a massive piece of work. I mean, £2,000 sounds a lot. This was weeks and weeks of work, okay? And they agreed a budget of £2,000. And I invoiced them for £1,750. They were prepared to pay me £2,000. They budgeted for £2,000. They were happy to pay £2,000. And I charged them £1,750. I question that sometimes because that's me losing out on £250. I question that. That's a stupid business decision to make. I should have invoiced them for £2,000 because that's what they planned to pay and that's how much they budgeted to pay. But I wouldn't sleep at night because I record the time that I spend working on these projects. I have already told them I work to an hourly rate. And that work, when I added it up, all came in to £1,750. And if I'd have just gone, I'll tell you what, I'll just make it £2,000 because they're happy to pay that. They won't know any different. And I'm £250 better off and I can take a day off. That's not me. I wouldn't do that. And I don't do that. And it's silly. But they're the moral standards and the ethics that I have. And it's it's a bit wrong. Right. So anyway. So questions for the board game mashups. We have Monopoly Mage Knight. Yeah. Arkham Cluedo. So Cluedo combined with Arkham Horror. Yeah, that would actually work. So basically a scenario for Arkham Horror, which is like Cluedo. Yeah, that would work. Nomi's saying +1 for Ingenious. Yeah, Ingenious is good. Mousetrap Wingspan. So combine Mousetrap with Wingspan. Okay, yeah. Which Uwe Rosenberg would you recommend is best for solo gamers? Well, I am absolutely loving Feast for Odin. If you don't mind your heavy games, Feast for Odin solo, I think is fantastic. And I really, really enjoy it. As a lighter game, Nussfjord. Is it Nussfjord? Yeah, Nussfjord. With obviously my house rule to fix the problem with the game that people don't think is a problem, but I do. Nussfjord is quite a good solo game. You can play it in about 20 minutes. Feast for Odin, you can play in about 45 unless you're doing a live stream, in which case it's 1 hour and 45. Why that took me so long, I don't know. So yeah, I would say unless there's any answers in the chat, Nussfjord, and probably Feast for Odin are my favourite Uwe Rosenberg solo games. Questioning from Linda, if you like exotic creatures, have you ever played Dale of Merchants Deck Builder? I haven't. No, Dale of Merchants. I might need to look at that. Question from John, what's your favourite campaign-based game? Well, love Gloomhaven, playing a lot of Gloomhaven. Also love the Arkham Horror card game. And for those of you that don't know, I do. There is a whole series on my channel. Last night we live streamed Arkham Horror Carcosa Chapter 6. We're doing it usually every couple of weeks. They're all on the channel now. Complete back catalogue of Arkham Horror live playthroughs. That's the Arkham Horror living card game. It is a campaign game and I love it. That or Gloomhaven? Not sure. There's advantages and disadvantages to both. Arkham Horror has a bit too much randomness in it for me to appreciate it as a Eurogamer, but I think the narrative is better. I think the stories are better, and I love the fact that it's actually a self-contained campaign. It's 8 scenarios, there's the campaign, done. Finished. Characters closed. Whereas Gloomhaven is like a living, evolving world. There's advantages to that as well, but I also like the short campaigns. Journeys in Middle-earth, yeah, I need to play more of it. I mean, I'm enjoying it, and it is a campaign game, but I haven't played more of it. I haven't played as much as I want to. If I had the time, I would be doing a live playthrough of Journeys in Middle-earth once every couple of weeks. This was one of my plans, is to start doing a regular stream of Journeys in Middle-earth once every couple of weeks. And again, back to what I was saying early on about how much money the Patreon earns for me. And if you look at my Patreon page and you see how much is on there, you'll think, wow, he's getting loads of money for his Patreon. Yes, I'm getting quite a lot of money from the Patreon. Bearing in mind they take their cut and then I have to convert it from dollars into pounds. But when you look at the amount of free content that I'm producing, at the moment I can't justify taking an extra 3 hours off work every 2 weeks to do more to do more free content. I'd love to. I would really love to, but it's just time. If the Patreon campaign carries on doing well, maybe that can be the next goal. Well, the next goal is to do older games, but maybe the goal after that would be I will do a solo campaign game every 2 weeks. And then the extra Patreon funds will basically allow me to do it. Anyway, didn't want to plug the Patreon, but I'm just saying I want to play more Journeys in Middle-earth, and that's why I've not played it. Paul Bryant is saying it could be White Dwarf 52, which he's got a copy of somewhere. Excellent. Have a look at Paul Harris's question in the Facebook chat. Okay, so I've got to go back to the Facebook chat. He should join in the live chat. That's where it's all happening. Okay, let's refresh. Okay, I can't see Paul Harris is in the... unless I've missed it. Matt, Paul Bryant, Jonathan. Have I missed it? Have I missed it? Question from Graham, question from Bez, Simon, Anthony, Chris. No, I can't see Paul Harris's in the chat. So, oh, the Facebook chat. Oh yeah, sorry, there's a Facebook chat on screen as well, isn't there? Sorry for that. Wow, there's Facebook chat here. Right, apologies for that. I've been looking at another screen. So all these people that have been talking in the Facebook chat, I haven't seen any of these. Super sorry, we're going to extend the show because all of these people that are watching on Facebook and putting comments in, I haven't been answering these. So Ian's here, Tommy's here, Liani's here. Excellent. Thank you very much for everybody joining in, and apologies for not responding to your stuff. So Chris has given his opinion on Gloomhaven an hour and 20 ago, which I disagree with. I know, Chris, you have your own opinion of the game, but I've played it more than you, and I realise, yeah, you think it's a series of arena fights with kill all enemies. It's not that. It really isn't. And yeah, I've played a lot of it, and I can tell you that it's not all like that. Some of them are, but if the game was that, we wouldn't be playing it. The other people and me who play games, if it was that, we wouldn't be playing it. So yeah, there are some amusing comments in here, which at the time would have probably made sense, but now that I'm getting to them an hour late, Right, so let's have a look on here. We have I had chance to play Shadows of Brimstone, says Ian Robinson. No, I haven't had chance to play Shadows of Brimstone. I've heard of the game, but I don't know much about it. People are looking forward to Expo. Oh, Claire is here in this chat as well. Excellent. Thank you for joining in, Claire. Ian says we need a gaming rules t-shirt. Yes, I need to get gaming rules. I need to get more merchandise. So I definitely need to do something regarding gaming rules t-shirts. But again, it's time. And with GridCon coming up, and I have a lot of admin still to do for GridCon, and I have a lot of Patreon supporter benefits, which I still haven't got round to doing, which I will do at some point. Yeah, that's on there. People are also saying, yeah, Orc's Nest, Travelling Man for Leeds and York, AR Gaming in York as well. Excellent. Claire is saying Sensor Ghosts is the worst rulebook you've used recently. Now, I've played Sensor Ghosts and I did a live stream of it. I can't remember. I mean, it wasn't particularly bad. I remember it being a little unclear in a few places and could have done with a touch of an editor. But I wouldn't have said it was that bad, but it's the worst one Claire's seen recently. Chris Bromley is saying Machina Arcana 2.0 is a good game with a terrible rulebook. Never heard of that game. Mark goes, it's feeding time. Henry's cat, says Chris Dickinson. Henry's cat? What was Henry's cat? That rings a bell, that. Oh, clearly the cat from Red Dwarf, says Richard R. Alder. Yes, the cat from Red Dwarf is a favourite cat. Yeah, not everyone knows Henry's cat. It rings a bell. I don't know what Henry's cat is, but it rings a bell. You are never more than 10 feet away from... right, yeah, so Paul Harris is here. Right. This was a question from 6:10, so about half an hour ago. Unfortunately, the wonders of modern day internet make you impossible to watch on the train. So what would be your top 3 all-time best games to play on a train? Best games to play on a train. Well, Through the Ages on the iPad. I guess that doesn't count. That's cheating, isn't it? If we're saying board games to play on a train journey, it would have to be something small that could fit on the table. So, I mean, assuming you had one of those tables, I would probably say something like, I don't know, I mean, Categorical that I mentioned earlier on, that's good fun, but you kind of need 2 or 3 people per side. So that, practically, that wouldn't quite work. Not sure. It's a good question, but I'm thinking some of those games from Oink Games, some of those ones are quite good because they're in little small boxes. So Deep Sea Adventure or Troika that Ian brought round once and played. Palm Island is a question. Yeah, okay. Right, what other questions have we had on the Facebook chat? Pedro is here, or was here, 6:25, so 20 minutes back now. See you at Lyricon. I'll be at Lyricon. Come over and say hi. And Chris Bromley is saying that's how he runs his business. By the hour and no more. It's how the world should work. Yeah, Chris. I mean, obviously I agree with you because that's what I've said. What I said I do. And this is what makes me more comfortable about now working for myself, more so than ever before. Because the fact that if you're off sick, you still get paid. I get that because you need to. And if you're off sick, you've still got bills to pay and things like that. But now if I'm off sick, if I'm not working, I don't get paid. And that seems fair. I know it seems unfair in the fact that if I'm off sick, suddenly I can't afford to buy food. Well, that's what savings are for. And I know not everybody has savings. But I do a piece of work, I get paid for that piece of work. Rather than I get paid a fixed salary for just doing a job, no matter how much I work, how hard I work, how good I work, or even if I take time off or anything like that. So yeah, getting paid by the hour just sits really comfortably with me. And Bruce is saying that, yeah, my proper approach, because it builds a brand, builds credibility, transparency. I guess, I mean, I have managed to build up a couple of good relationships, good working relationships with publishers. And a lot of the publishers I now work with, I don't have a budget. They give me a piece of work and they don't give me a limit. They literally say, take as long as you want on it, because they know how I work. They know that I'm not going to go back and charge them £6,000 and say, well, I had to have caviar for it. You know, it's like they know how I work now. And I'm very happy that some of my regular clients, I have that relationship with them, that they just basically say, Paul, here's the rule book, or do a video. We don't care how long it takes. Just take as much time as you need. That's quite good. That makes me feel good. Right, and Chris is saying that there is a Cluedo-like scenario in one of the Mansions expansions. We were talking about the mashups of board games. Right, so we're caught up with the Facebook chat, and apologies for that. Now that I've got the Facebook chat working, I forgot to look at it. That was my bad. I am now going to look at, Palm Island Friday as games you can play on the train. Sushi Go, anything in the Oniverse. I've not played any of the Oniverse games. I did get one of the apps, or near him, I think, on here. And I looked at it and I just felt, I didn't like it. Gloomhaven on a train. Yes. And I think that's where we're going to end it. It is 6:47. We have been an hour and 47 minutes. Thank you so much to everybody for joining in. Thank you to everybody for all of the questions before. I really didn't think I was going to get through them all. At 10 to 5, I was really worried and I was thinking, I've had bitten off more than I can chew. I'm going to be here for 3 hours tonight. But I'm not. We're an hour and 45. The timer has just gone downstairs, which means dinner's ready. We've answered all of the questions, I think, apart from those ones, the one from Chris Taylor I'm going to come back to later. But again, BGG Guild, guild number 2258. Please join, please subscribe, and use it to start asking questions. Not just of me, but other questions that you want to ask other people. There's a lot of people in the guild, and you can get answers to all sorts of questions there. It's not generally used for little bits of chats like, oh, I played this game last night and I enjoyed it. It's more about questions that you want answering. So yeah, pop onto the guild, join up, subscribe, let me know if you have any problems, and final shout out, this is your last chance. I will be doing the draw straight after dinner. Send me an email right now, paul.grogan@outlook.com. Tell me the name of your favourite London Underground station or your favourite Berlin Underground station. Tell me if you're a patron supporter, and you will get 2 entries if you are. I will do a draw at the end of after dinner, just before we watch Doctor Who, and one of you is going to win £25 worth of game vouchers from Games Law. Thank you very much to Games Law for sponsoring the show. Sorry for Scott for the lack of the sock question, but you can ask 2 sock questions next time. So thank you very much. I'm going to close everything off now. And I will see some of you tomorrow for a review. I will see some of you Friday for a review, although they won't be live. And then I will see some of you live on Friday night, 8 o'clock UK time, until it finishes 6-player Age of Steam. Wish us luck. Right. Cheers all. I'll see you next time.